Adam played out in the field. His folks lounged nearby as the family enjoyed the warm spring day. It was perfect for them. The young boy knelt by some flowers when he saw something moving. Feathers and two tiny antlers. He watched quietly as it stepped out of the flowers. His mouth fell open at the little oddity before him. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventurers. I'm your guide, Jason. Today we are looking at the Wolpertinger, a chimera coming from Bavarian folklore. The Wolpertinger is a shy mythical creature found in the alpine forest of Bavaria in southern Germany. It is an amalgamation of several animals found throughout the region. The head and front legs of a rabbit, a squirrel body, hind legs and wings of a pheasant, deer antlers, and a longer tail. Lastly, it has fangs. There are some variations in its appearance. Some also have the ability to spray a foul-smelling musk, like a skunk. Wait, an antlered rabbit? Like the jackalope? Yep. Seems we have a cousin to it. But there are others. The Almirage from Arabic folklore. And even more. The Raukel from Austria. The Swedish have the Skvader. Just to name a few. It seems just about every single region has some form of mythical rabbit creature with antlers. Why? The shop papillomavirus infections can cause horny growths on rabbits and other deformities. This can create what looks like horns or antlers on rabbits, and due to its widespread nature, we can easily see why so many parts of the world would have a similar mythical creature. But we have another option: taxidermy scams. There is no shortage of these. We have the hodag, the jackalope, and the list goes on with fake animals made up to attract visitors and attention. The same is true of the Wolpertinger. Reports date back to the 1800s. At first, it was much more similar to the jackalope, but as its tales grew more and more outlandish, so did its appearance. Its origins speak of a deer and a hare which fell in love and gave birth to the first Wolpertinger. They inbreed, which caused the increasingly bizarre appearance with each generation. This is a common issue that comes from inbreeding depression, where deleterious traits appear at a higher rate. Yet that wouldn't explain the bird-like traits appearing. No, neither a hare nor a deer would have such traits. Perhaps they started breeding with pheasants too. Now, with most mythical creatures, there are a few problems. Namely, just slapping wings on something and making it fly. I mean, getting a lion or horse to fly would require insanely large wings. But a rabbit? This is much more feasible. The Flemish giant rabbit is the largest species of rabbit in the world and weighs a whopping 49 pounds or 22 kilograms at the largest, but most are closer to 18 pounds or 8 kilograms. They are between 2.5 and 4 feet, 76.2 centimeters to 121 centimeters. And guess what? A Canadian goose weighs up to 14 pounds with a wingspan of 50 to 73 inches, 127 to 185 centimeters. That means the average Flemish giant rabbit could possibly fly with the wings of a Canadian goose. And it is even easier with the smaller, more normal sized rabbits. Now, birds have a few specializations for flight, but the Wolpertinger isn't mentioned being a great flyer. It is found mostly in alpine forest and hanging out in the underbrush. So it might not be a great flyer. But if we want it to fly, we'll need to make a few adjustments. The usual ones: enlarging the sternum, duplication of the chest and back muscles, hollowing of bones, and the unilateral airway. But if it isn't a great flyer and only uses flight as a short, quick escape, we can skip the last two and still make it work. This is much better than most of the others. So, what kind of wings do we need? I've probably beaten it to death by now, but there are several kinds of wings: active soaring, passive soaring, high speed, elliptical, and hovering. Each is found on a different type of bird that lives in certain areas or does long migrations. Thankfully, we know the Wolpertinger's preferred environments and hiding places: in alpine forests, and it hangs out in the underbrush. And those are the same things that songbirds do, and they have the elliptical wings. Thus, there is a good chance that the Wolpertinger have the elliptical wings, which are good for sudden turns and burst flight. It isn't good for long migratory flights. This would even match what kind of wings pheasants have. So if I am right about the Wolpertinger being a subpar flyer, then these wings are perfect. But there are a few other things to note with this beast. Some speak of it having the skunk-like trait of spraying a foul-smelling odor, which will linger for 7 years. Now, skunks use a compound called N-Captain, which is a mixture of sulfur-based compounds called thiols and thioacetates. It looks like a yellowish liquid. In shortly put, it is a rather pungent and foul stink. What, did the early Wolpertingers mate with a skunk too? Maybe not. Deers actually have a form of musk, which could be modified to produce the scent as well. Pretty simple. But why would its effect last 7 years? Perhaps it doesn't, but can overload the olfactory receptors in the nose to make the effect last a longer time. Even if the musk is gone, the nerve still reacts as if it is present. There is an oddity with catching it. Supposedly, it will become still if salt is sprinkled on its tail. Is the salt reacting with the sulfur-based musk it has? Is the salt reacting with the sulfur-based musk it has? Most table salt is sodium chloride. Now, chloride and sulfur do react to create sulfur dichloride, which is a corrosive substance and highly toxic. If the musk is a concentrated form N-butylamine, it may be more volatile. So having salt sprinkled on its tail may create an unpleasant sensation. But why would it know that? It isn't like you frequently get salt on you while wandering the forests. Well, the Bavarian mountains have some expansive salt mines in the area. So if it lives in underground dens, there is a possibility that it gets exposed to salt. Yet that still doesn't make sense. You see, the salt mines aren't that shallow. Nowhere near as shallow as what Wolpertinger would dig for its burrow. No, something else is happening. There is a better chance that this is a simple fear response to an unknown stimulus to its tail. Perhaps it needs a heavy layer of mucus near its tail to protect itself from its powerful musk, and that is what is reacting. I don't know. Chances are it's just startled and freezes like a deer in the headlights. There is one more weird quirk with this creature. If it spits on you, you'll get hair growing thickly from there. So it has a hair growth solution in its mouth? Wouldn't that cause it to grow thick hair in its mouth? Well, again, it'll need the protective mucus in the mouth to prevent this. As to why it happens, I have no clue. Most hair tonics are made from alcohol and light oils or liquid petroleum, but none of that causes quick hair growth. Nope, it seems to be some form of magic. As for its phylogeny, while it is a relative of the jackalope, it is decently separated from it and other rabbits. Something like this, perhaps? But could it be a relative of other winged beasts, like griffins and Pegasus? Probably not. It would seem that we have convergent evolution between the other animals, but there are too many other morphological differences to put them in the same families. Overall, I would put the Wolpertinger in the rodent family, perhaps a subgroup for other winged rabbit-like animals, but branching off after the owl mirage and the jackalope. How does one go about catching the Wolpertinger? Many stories say it is more active at night, under the full moon, but most sightings come from beautiful young women, or those traveling with such women. Supposedly, the Wolpertinger will be enraptured by the woman's looks, and will be lured out of its lair to gawk at the woman. But they aren't likely to approach, as they are known to be shy. You'll need to find a quiet hideaway and wait. Now, what happens if you're not under such a condition? Well, look for tracks. Wolpertinger are herbivores, and will feed on many kinds of roots and other plants. They'll dig at the ground and gnaw on branches. But if they have horns like a deer, they'll need to rub them against trees, like deer do in the early spring, to remove the fresh velvet. Due to its height, you'll see sections of bark rubbed away, usually with what looks like a bloody mess left around it. That will be your sign. Another trick is the good old-fashioned snipe hunt story. Use a candle or flashlight to lure it out, and when it gets close, sprinkle some salt on its tail and nab it in a sack. But it can't hurt you. It does have fangs, which will hurt to be bitten by, and plenty of people have been stabbed by a charging deer. So yes, it can hurt you, but unlikely to be fatal. Still, I'd bring protection. Due to its small size, anything will keep its fangs from sinking in. But for the antlers, I prefer gambeson or plate armor. There is a risk of one of the prongs getting through chainmail, but that is pretty unlikely. Still, better safe than sorry. Now, it can have legs like a pheasant. Those can claw you, and will hurt, but only minor damage, unless it gets you in the eye. So put on a helmet. Nothing fancy, just something to keep a little distance. Its wings can beat you, but that is about it. They are blunt force and cushioned by their feathers. Chances are it'll spread them wide to try and look imposing, but don't fall for it. It's all show and no substance. As for weapons, salt on its tail is a nice trick, but what about others? Well, a sack or net will work wonders. Throw it out, but be careful about getting it caught in the branches. As for other weapons, a bow and arrow or a throwing spear will offer range and the chance to strike with an easy surprise attack. If you do get in close, any weapon will work. Something nimble may be best if it is agile with its wings and size. Magic is the same, but spells like gravity could ground it, or a strong wind spell could throw it off course. The fur will protect against some cold. The real problem is if it can get to its burrow, at which point you'll need a hunting dog to pull it out. Overall, Wolpertinger isn't a serious threat. It isn't aggressive, but has a few ways to protect itself and intimidate its foes. You'll have to try and get hurt, and why I'm giving it a 1 out of 10 for difficulty. Chances are it'll sprint away long before you can approach it. Now, if you do catch the Wolpertinger, you do get some meat, fur, and feathers, but nothing special about them. But keep it alive, and you'll get its saliva. Sell it as a hair tonic. Know some balding men? Dab it on their scalp, and they'll have luscious locks before you know it. Sounds perfect. A great little partner for your alchemy shop. Well, no. Remember, it has a skunk attack. That musk would make your shop an inhospitable place, which no customer would ever step into. You'll need to have it deskunked. Put on a lot of protective gear, do the procedure, then throw it all in the fire out of town. Or if you're clever, collect it. Tell me, adventurer, could you use it to rig up a stink bomb, throw it into a bandit hideout, and watch the mayhem ensue? Oh, it'll be a lot of fun. Mind you, you might catch the smell too, Have a potion to remove and purify yourself handy before trying it. Adam watched the Wolpertinger as it watched his mother. Neither moved, nor intended harm. They both watched, at least until Adam's mom called her child back to her side. The Wolpertinger bolted through the flowers and into the forest. Adam jabbered about what he saw and was greeted with a smile from his mother. Wolpertinger is a funny little creature. It will mean you no harm and will run before anything happens usually. You'll have to try and get into a scrape with one, but there is no need to fear them. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time for Tsuchinoko. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.